Hello. Look, it's Barbara, and we're at the Church of Favonius. Wow, it's so thematic. I know, fancy, fancy. Anyways, I've been thinking. I've recently got Nelu off of the Chronicled Wish banner for Sumeru. I think it was, last patch? Yeah, last patch. It was after Lauma's banner. And so I got Nelu, and I mean, most people probably know she's meant for using her with Bloom, right? Using her fancy version of Bloom. You got just Hydro and Dendro, does big damage. And I thought to myself, you know what? I should just keep using Barbara instead. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using Barbara because Barbara with the Bloom, it's pretty good, and it got some buffs with the craftable weapon from Nodcry plus Lauma, of course, and the new support set from Nodcry, where's a character that has it on, so you can actually see it. Yeah, this thing right here. Yeah. So there are some nice buffs to it. Plus, the Abyss as well as other endgame modes have been very focused on Bloom related stuff due to, or Lunar Bloom, I should say, but all of the Lunar Bloom buffs also apply to normal Bloom most of the time. So it just sort of benefits Barbara Bloom a lot as well. And you don't have to have Llama. I've been using Barbara Bloom for many a year since Sumeru came out, and it's quite snazzy. So you don't need Llama, but Llama is certainly a nice buff to a said team. Now, my Barbara she's built decently. We got 1050 EM. If that's only in the team, right? That's because we have Nahita's signature weapon plus Dendro resonance. Yeah, Dendro resonance. So normally I'm at 960 EM without being in the team. We've got the Black Mirror Lantern, the craftable weapon from Nodcry. This is really nice. Now, other than this, what I've been using is Sacrificial Fragments, which is really good, low base attack, high elemental mastery, and there is technically a hit, even though it does no damage, when you cast Barbara's skill. It does hit the enemy. So because of that, if it triggers, you can have her skill be on a 16-second cooldown, assuming you have this at R5, instead of its typical 32-second cooldown. Now, it is shorter than this if you have like passive and constellations, because it's a 15-second duration, and then you add in C2 when it decreases the cooldown by 15%, which is pretty solid. That's 4.8 seconds, I think. And then you add in her A1 passive, right? Wait, no, sorry, A4 passive, and you can extend their duration by up to 5 seconds. So that's a 20 seconds uptime with a 27.4 second cooldown. 27.2 second cooldown, assuming you have her at C2 and you grab particles. So not too much downtime, but in case there was, it can be nice to have Sacrificial Fragments. But it's not like hugely necessary. So it's nice to be able to have this now, which is the Black Mirror Lantern is low base attack and high EM, just like Sacrificial Fragments, but it gives 96% Bloom damage and 24 plus another 24% Lunar Bloom damage, but that's only if you have the Nodcry stuff. Though I think we're technically dealing Lunar Bloom, aren't we, because of Llama in the team, so we might only be making use of the first half of the damage bonus of this. But regardless, it's an increase in damage. Now, it's 24% if you have ascendant, or sorry, the normal one? The non-ascendant gleam? But if you have ascendant gleam, you get another 24% damage bonus. But we only have Llama, so we're only getting that 24% instead of 48%, but it's still nice. It's not like insane or anything, but it's a damage boost technically. Then of course we have the 4-piece Paradise Lost set. My pieces are okay. They could be better. I wish I had more HP and ER on her, right? Like this doesn't have HP, this doesn't have ER, this doesn't have ER and barely any HP percent. This rolled more into crit than it should have, though the 58 EM is nice, and the 42 EM, 11% ER on this is nice, but HP would be better. So I don't really have amazing artifacts for Barbara. We do have her Triple Crown that isn't really relevant, but I mean, it's a thing, and we have her C6, like most people probably do if you've been playing this game for longer than a year. C6 is actually quite nice, so that, if you die, you don't get screwed over. It can be nice. It's better than people give it credit for. The rest of her constellations aren't really important. I mean, other than her C2, past her C2, that's like the main thing that matters. But C6 is nice, and C4 does help a little bit. Now the team, this is a Bloom team, so we want elemental mastery buffing stuff and lots of Dendro. Now if you don't know, doing Hydro on an enemy with Dendro only consumes 0.5 units of aura, whereas if you apply Dendro to an enemy with Hydro, it consumes a full unit. So you want to do, whenever you do Bloom, it's better to do Hydro on Dendro than Dendro and Hydro. So we really want to be overpowering our Hydro with Dendro, which is why we've got, you know, double Dendro here. Plus, you know, both these characters are just really good. Now Lauma, she's fairly new still. She's got very, very juicy buffs to hyper, sorry, now I mean, guess hyper bloom is technically buffed by, but bloom in general. Now she converts any sort of bloom like bloom burgeon or hyper bloom into lunar bloom. Now does that matter? No, it does the same exact amount of damage. It's pretty pointless. Just pretend it's not even there for the most part. What we care about is that she's buffing bloom damage, so her skill is going to reduce enemy resistance to Dendro and Hydro, and it's going to apply a pretty consistent Dendro application. It's like, what, once every 2 seconds or something the deer hits in a full radius. So if you're in like multi-wave content, this is going to be more consistent than having to reapply your Nahida skill all the time. And the red shred is really good, though it's diminished by the fact that Deepwood Memories is already a thing, but it is still very nice to have. And then her burst gives a flat damage buff to bloom reactions, which is even more damage, which is also very nice. And that's mostly it. You want to build her with a bunch of EM because she scales off of EM with her bursts and how much bonus damage you get. So just build EM right on everything. And if you don't have the weapon you got from the events that came out in 2.0, this is like the perfect weapon for her. You can just use Black Mirror Lantern. It's not the end of the world, or even Sacrificial Fragments. Or, I mean, you could use Favonius too. What matters mostly just as much EM as you can get while having enough ER to get your burst back. I have like just enough most of the time. If anything, I feel like maybe a little more ER would be nice while I have double Dendro and I'm sitting at 178, but it's not that bad. Now, Diona, or actually we'll go to Nahida next. Okay, Nahida's here because, I mean, most people, I think you know what Nahida does. Lots of Dendro application from her skill off field, and her burst gives a very chunky elemental mastery buff. Very, very nice. I do have her signature weapon, but you'll see here in a minute that I'm kind of balancing things out, right? Because I have her at C2 as well, C2 R1. But my builds are kind of trash, and you'll see why when I explain it. So with her, you're going to just want to build EM because she scales like 25% of her EM up to a cap of 250 for her burst. So if you have 1000 EM, get the full buff, and then you just want energy recharge to make sure you get it back. So just lots of EM and lots of energy recharge. Well, not lots, enough that you can get it back. Now Diona is here because her C6 gives another 200 EM if you're at half health or above, which is very nice. Plus she gives a shield, which is just nice for comfort. She gives more healing because we don't have a ton of healing since we aren't building Barbara for healing. Her healing is kind of meh. So this is like nice extra buffing plus extra survivability. And she has cryo. So cryo with Hydro and Dendro, it does something fancy, and then you can get more bloom reactions. Now, if you want to know more about that, I would suggest looking up how Fridge works with bloom, because I don't know how it works exactly. I just know that it works and it's fancy. And so cryo plus Hydro plus Dendro is nice. Now normally people don't do that. You don't really see a lot of Fridge teams because it's usually better to just go with Hyper Bloom. Burgeon exists. I guess most people don't really do Burgeon, but Burgeon is better as well. So you don't really see Fridge teams almost ever because there's not really much point in it most of the time. But it works very nicely here, so we can get as many bloom reactions as possible. Now, you might be asking, what is the point of Barbara in this too? Why would you use Barbara? Well, she's a Hydro Catalyst user, which means she can apply Hydro all the time. Her charge attack has no ICD. Her skill hits enemies when you're near them every couple seconds, and that does not deal damage. There's no damage number, but that also applies hydro. And the healing is nice just in general, so that's nice to have. But lots and lots of hydro, and that's the main thing we care about. And then if you compare her to someone like, say, Kokomi. Okay, Kokomi is probably better. She's going to give better team-wide healing, even if you aren't building her for healing. She's also going to do higher personal damage just from her numbers, right? Her motion value on top of the blooms and stuff. But I don't like having to work around the jellyfish as much. It's kind of annoying when you place it and the boss just runs away. That kind of happens with Diona's burst too. But then this way, there's only one thing that I have to worry about of the boss running away from. Plus, Kokomi's a 5-star, whereas Barbara's a 4-star. A 4-star you get for free even. And then, I mean, they're both catalyst users, which means you can make use of Black Mirror Lantern, which is very nice. Now, if I'm sure people are going to be sort of salty, maybe perchance, you know, all 2 people that may see this video, that I have C2R1 on Nahida, right? We have a C2R1 Nahida and then Lauma. Well, Lauma, you know, she's C0. She's got no signature. C1 on Nahida is doing practically nothing here. It's giving me like an extra 3 seconds on my my burst. That's not that big of a deal. The other things don't really matter all that much either. So I don't think this matters much. And this is nice though, the 20% crit chance to blooms. And that's pretty nice because Lauma also has her talent where if you have only one non-cry character, you have a chance to crit on blooms, right? It's 10% crit chance, right? No, 15% crit chance with a fixed crit damage of 100%. So it's nice, and it will increase our damage if RNG is nice to us. If RNG is not nice, it barely does anything. It kind of depends. But I have it balanced out so it seems more fair by my builds being dog shit. And I mean, first of all, we already showed Barbara's build could be better. Lauma and Nahida both have Deepwood. You cannot stack Deepwood. This is a complete waste. It would be so much better to have the Nodcry support set. We only have one Nodcry character, so it's only 60 EM, but that's still 60 EM. So we're missing out on that. My Lauma build just in general isn't that great. It could definitely be better. My Nahida build, I have crit on her headpiece. This should be EM. You'd be way better off going a 3rd EM piece, right? So I'm losing out on that. My builds are very, very doo-doo. My Diona would be way better off on instructors for even more elemental mastery for the team. She's just got 2-piece HP, 2-piece healing bonus, right? Like, you can make up, if you were to compare good builds on these characters and a C0 Nahida without her signature, because her signature is, I'm gonna be real, it's kind of dog shit. You can just use anything other than her signature. You lose what, like 40 EM or 70 EM or something. That is so minuscule. She's got one of the worst signatures in the game. I got it though because it matches her, and we like stuff that's aesthetically pleasing. But my point is, if you had your teams built better, oh, my Lauma, she's not even at, she's at 8-8 for her skill and her burst. You could go to 9 or even 10 on these, and that would be a very nice damage increase. If you had your characters built better than this, but you had a C0, no signature Nahida, you'd be doing more damage than what I'm going to be doing here. Unless I somehow get godlike RNG and crit every single bloom. That's not going to happen, but I mean, if it did, that would be pretty wild. You get my point though. I think you have a general grasp of the point of this team and everything here, and I mean, Nahida, if you pull Nahida and you pull Lauma, that's only 2 5-stars. So you don't need their signatures. Diona, she's kind of hard to get to C6 if you're a new player. But if you're a long-time player, you probably have her at C6. And even without this bonus EM, she is still nice to have in the team for the shield and the cryo and everything. If you want to replace her, though, I do sometimes use Layla instead. She doesn't give elemental mastery in any way. Her constellations are pretty pointless. You literally just build her with HP for a thick-ass shield and then energy so you can have her burst up more often. She's got more consistent cryo application, especially if the enemy moves around a lot, while also having a thicker shield and not relying on constellations at all. So if you don't have C6 Diona, you can just use Layla. She works pretty close, I'd say. Honestly, I think I like Layla more half the time. I don't know. It kind of depends on the enemy I'm fighting, because Layla can be more consistent. Anyway, So I'm getting off track. It's a bloom team with Barbara, and Barbara is off-brand Nilu, right? But it works, and that's all that matters. So I want to show fighting a couple things. Now, first, I really like to show against this boss here, but the setup time in a bloom team can be a little annoying, but we'll have to do it, because if we try against the robot chicken, that guy moves around way too much. So we'll fight this guy. Now, usually I want to open with Nihita, right? So we're gonna run in, you Nihita skill, Nihita burst, Lauma skill, Lauma burst. I should have held skill, but it's fine. Then skill burst on Giona, and then skill and just start spamming attacks. Make sure you do as many charge attacks as you can before you run out of stamina, because it's got no ICD, which means lots and lots of blooms. And look at that. Come on, no! Oh my god, I thought we were gonna kill him. I was like, come on, blow up. See, we killed him pretty easily. I didn't even do the hold skill on her, and we got all of our bursts back. And that was against a boss that is definitely not good for bloom and stuff. Obviously, it's not like crazy or anything, but it's very doable. And we have no sort of like big buff going on like you can get in the Abyss, which is what I want to show off next. We're gonna go to the Abyss over here, see, because there's buffs. The buffs are supposed to be targeted at Nefer/Lauma, but who needs that when we got Barbara? So the first half is character's bloom damage increases by 200% and lunar bloom damage increased by 75%. Very, very nice. And the bosses are pretty good for the most part to be facing. I mean, you got the rock crab, who's you really want bloom against. You got the primordial bathysimal bishop, which is kind of weird, but he's good for facing bloom with. And then these guys, you can't use Barb on the first enemy here because he's water, but the second two you can. I really just hate the antelope. He's a pain. The other half, we're just gonna skip that. You know, we'll cut that out probably through the power of editing. So let's go ahead and get the teams going. So we slap in Barbara, and then so I don't have to waste time with my life, I guess I'll just use Flynn's, who I pulled by accident. I didn't even want Flynn. I mean, I wanted him, but I didn't want him, right? Like, I wasn't gonna pull him, but then we got him by accident, and it was big sad. So we'll just slap his booty cheeks in here and call it a day. All right, let us begin. Beginny. Now, especially for this first guy, it would be nice to have more EM on my Nihita, right? Because I have a crit headpiece. Since we have to use Nihita or Lauma on field because he's already got Hydro, so we can't apply Hydro with Barbara. But it's not the end of the world. So we spawn the dude, we start the thing. I don't actually remember what the cycle buff is. You know how there's a buff for like every cycle that's separate from the certain Abyss buffs for the floor. No clue what that is. I think it's some sort of true damage. That's what it looked like. I doubt it matters much though. Usually it doesn't. Now we can actually use Barbara just as we want. I'm going to really hate life once the antelope spawns, because he'll do like electro and stuff, and that tends to blow up the bloom cores. But as long as he doesn't blow up all of our bloom cores, we'll be fine. There we go. Look at this. I'm very bad at commentary, and if you can't tell. Also, I'm very bad at the game, if you can't tell. But that's okay. It makes me relatable as hell. I do wish we had a little more stamina here, but it's fine. You can see we're doing enough damage to kill this shucker here. Come on, give me energy. This is where I would like more energy, as I had said earlier on my llama. She could use a little more energy. It's not the end of the world, but it's enough to be like, you know, I would like some more energy. And we kind of need a little more Dendro. You could benefit a little bit from switching to heat every now and then, but look at that. 8 minutes and 34 seconds left on the clock. That was pretty good. If you ask me, that was under recommended time using Barbara. All right, we're just gonna cut to the next part of this though. Here we are. Barbara returneth. The energy, you know what? We'll like that. That will make life easier because we don't have any of our abilities up quite yet, but that's just fine because we can get them pretty fast here. As long as you have good energy recharge and you're not dookie doo-doo at the game like me, you'll have no issues. Now, this guy spawns a shield after you do so much damage to him. It's not really that hard to deal with as long as you have a good Dendra application. And Cryo can also help take down the shield faster. So Diona here actually isn't completely worthless. She's pretty nice. I mean, she's not completely worthless otherwise. I don't know why I worded that so weirdly. But she helps with that, right? You know, Cryo plus Dendro really shreds his shield. I mean, you saw how fast he lost his shield. And look at this damage. Look at this damage. I think it's just pretty good if you ask me. Look at that. He's dead. I don't even know how fast that was, but that was crazy fast, man. How here? Let me see. Let me see. That only took 50 seconds. Okay, we're gonna skip these big guys. I'll see you on the last part of the chamber. And here we are onto the last chamber, chamber 3. None of these really do a whole lot, so I guess we're just gonna go with the extra defense. So that's fine, I suppose. And then you kind of want to save Lauma's skill because he's going to shoot these things, but I was a little dumb there, and it's fine. We'll get it back. I did that because I really wanted energy. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. Lauma's really good for this boss. Otherwise, you have to do a lot of blooms just in separate areas. You can do it just fine without Lauma. She's not needed here, but I mean, we have her in the team for a reason, right? We're kind of using Lauma because we want to use Lauma. And she's just delicious. But you can clear this boss just fine without Llama. I mean, if you look up clears of like the last Stygian Onslaught, I think it was, people were able to clear that on the highest difficulty without Llama. A lot of them were cutting it close, but it's pretty straightforward. This is one of the easiest bosses in the game. You just kind of like do bloom attacks and he die. And that's pretty much it. I'm rotating this team horribly, but again, it makes it more relatable. And that was kind of it. I might as well go ahead and talk while I fight this last guy. I really like that Barbara is pretty good in the Bloom team. Of course, you know, she's fighting against Kokomi, which is a very solid option. But again, Kokomi is a 5-star, so it's a little harder to get her. And if you're a really big fan of Barbara, it's nice to be able to have a team where she's really solid in and can clear the current endgame at least very effectively. So I quite like that, especially as a big Barbara fan myself. And having the extra Hydra application from her skill everywhere you go instead of having to like work around the jellyfish of Kokomi is really nice as well. So I'm quite fond of that. Now, I mean, if they ever do Mondstadt buffs for the church characters, you know, I would still take a buff to Barbara, but she's pretty good as is. I feel like she deserves more credit than she gets. I might do a crit Barbara video at some point because that's also something I like to do. I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I use crit Barbara, sometimes I use blue Barbara. They're both pretty fun. That's pretty much it. I don't really think there's anything else I need to show. I just wanted to show that Barbara's pretty great. And even if you don't have like Nilu or Kokomi or anybody like that, you can still do Bloom with her instead. And she's got the most adorable pigtail drills. Look at how can you not love her? She's amazing. Glorious. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any thoughts or ideas, then leave them in the comments, I suppose. Oh, well, goodbye.